Alright guys, I'm back with the most requested video on this channel. So a recent Netflix documentary just came out and it reveals something absolutely disturbing. People as young as 13 years old were tricked into going to Diddy's parties. And I'm not talking about normal parties here. This documentary shows exactly how it happened, and trust me, you need to hear this. So here's what you clicked on this video to find out. The new Netflix documentary called The Reckoning just exposed the entire system that Diddy and his people used to get young ones to these parties. We're talking about actual children and teenagers who thought they were getting their big break in the music industry. In this video, I'm going to walk you through every single tactic they used. You'll hear real stories from people who were there. You'll see how celebrities talked about these parties. And honestly, by the end of this, you'll understand why so many people stayed quiet for so long. Look, this isn't easy stuff to talk about, but it's important because this documentary proves that an entire system was built to protect these parties. And that system included managers, recruiters, bodyguards, and even the media. So let's get into it. Before we dive into how young people were manipulated, you need to understand what exactly is going on here. Netflix just dropped this documentary, and it's produced by 50 Cent. Yeah, Diddy's rival. The doc has footage that was filmed just 6 days before Diddy got arrested. Nobody's seen this stuff before. It shows Diddy talking to his lawyers, planning his defense, and even greeting fans on the street. Now, these parties we're talking about, they go all the way back to the 1990s. These weren't your regular celebrity get-togethers. The documentary makes it clear that young models and artists were specifically targeted. The parties were super secretive. You couldn't just show up, you had to be invited. And here's why this matters right now. Diddy was recently convicted on prostitution charges. He's facing multiple lawsuits from people claiming he hurt them. And this Netflix documentary, it connects all the dots. For the first time, we're seeing the full picture of how this system worked. Alright, so let's talk about the first way they got young people to come to these parties. And honestly, this one's pretty smart in a really messed up way. Puff Daddy parties were famous since the 1900s. I know that sounds like forever ago, but back then, these parties were the thing. And here's the genius part of it. Celebrities would throw out invites on live TV. Like actual famous people would go on shows and talk about Diddy's parties.
Puff Daddy sends you this VHS birthday invitation.
Cordially invited to celebrate the birth of Sean Puffy Combs.
Puffy. King Diddy.
P. Diddy.
King Diddy.
I thought his name was Puff Daddy.
Puff.
PD.
P. Daddy. Diddy. Puffy Daddy. P. Diddy.
You are cordially invited to celebrate the birth of P. Diddy.
Sean P. Diddy, Puff, Pastry Combs.
Puff the Magic Dragon. Puff Daddy.
Puffy.
I call Puffy Sean John.
Got a lot of names, huh? Let's get some more names.
HR Puff and Stuff.
Sean P. Puff. Puffy Combs.
Bad Boy.
You can call him birthday boy this night.
Sean John. Puffy Combs. Sean Puffy Combs.
Yo, Puff Daddy Combs.
My man, Puffy.
Big boy.
The legendary Puff Daddy. P. Diddy. Yes. Puff Daddy.
Cheese Puff.
That's the one you need to use.
Puff Daddy.
My daddy.
Hey! How you guys? How you doing? On November 4th, you are cordially invited to the birth of Puff Daddy! Yay!
Think about it from a young person's point of view. You're 15, maybe 16 years old. You want to be a singer or a model. And then you see your favorite celebrity on TV talking about how amazing these parties are. Of course you'd want to go. It felt like winning the lottery. The documentary talked about this really well. They showed how this created massive FOMO. That's fear of missing out, for anyone who doesn't know. These kids thought, if I don't go to this party, I'll miss my big chance. Now get this, even established celebrities felt this pull. There's this clip of Tyrese talking about going to a Diddy party.
You ever go to a Diddy party?
Yes.
And what was it like?
A Diddy party?
Is it like what they have in the media or
off the hook?
Off the hook?
And whenever they went into the quote unquote alleged other section,
Yeah.
I was never there.
You were gone. You were gone.
That's like, I think in general, getting away from Diddy, and God bless him and whatever else he's dealing with. I don't beat people while they're down. That's just not who I am character-wise. No one can erase his legacy. Bad Boy Records and Faith Evans and Biggie and Craig Mack and 112 and Total and I mean mogul. I mean, I don't know what all that other is going on or allegedly, but man, you know, legacy is legacy, man. You know, surviving Neverland. Did that stop you from listening to Michael Jackson after the documentary came out? I don't know.
He said it was off the hook, but here's what caught my attention. He made sure to say that when things got weird, when they went to what he called the other section, he was never there. He left early. And that tells you something, right? Even grown adults who knew better felt like they had to explain themselves. They had to make it clear they weren't part of the really bad stuff, because everyone knew something wrong was happening at these parties. The documentary also talked about this recent thing that just came out. It shows how even in modern times, the temptation was still there. Young people still wanted that access. They still believed that going to these parties would change their lives. And you know what? For a lot of them, it did change their lives. Just not in the way they hoped. Okay, this next part is where things get really dark, and I want you to pay close attention because this is straight up predatory behavior. The documentary revealed that Diddy had recruiters, and these weren't just random people. They were specifically described as people dressed in black, mostly black men who would go to clubs and hotels looking for young, beautiful women, especially women who looked like they were struggling or desperate for a break. Now, one model talked about her experience in the doc, and honestly, listening to her story made my skin crawl.
Did go to a Diddy party before I got sober.
Okay.
I was, in that time, early 2000s, Miami, pre-social media, just raging, put it that way. And I was with a friend of mine, and I don't know how or why we were at this hotel and why we got this room, but we were like passing out in our clothes from the club, and we get a knock on the door, and it's like 4 a.m. And we open the door, and there's this huge guy, and he's like, hey, do you guys want to come to a party? And we were like, yeah. We get ready really quick, and we go down, and there's a Rolls Royce waiting outside of the hotel. We're like, great. And we go to this party on Star Island, and it was Diddy's house. I'm so naive. I'm so young and dumb. Like, what could go wrong? What could this guy be thinking?
Here's what she said. She was in Miami with a friend. This was before social media was big, so people couldn't just look up who was throwing parties. They'd been out at the club and came back to their hotel room around 4 a.m. They were literally passing out, still in their clothes from the night. Then there's a knock on the door at 4 a.m. And when they open it, there's this huge guy standing there. He asks, hey, do you guys want to come to a party? Now, any normal person would say no, right? It's 4 a.m. You're tired. Some random man is at your door. But she said they were young and still kind of drunk, so they said yes. They got ready really quick, and here's where it gets crazy. When they went downstairs, there was a Rolls Royce waiting outside the hotel, just sitting there for them. She said they thought it was great. They ended up at a house on Star Island, and it was Diddy's house. She said, I was so naive, so young and dumb. What could go wrong? What could this guy be thinking? Looking back, she could see all the red flags. The late night timing, the mysterious invitation from a stranger, the fancy car that was meant to impress them and make them feel special. But in the moment, she was just a young girl who thought she was living a dream. And that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted these girls to feel special and chosen. Because once you feel like you're part of something exclusive, it's harder to walk away when things get uncomfortable. Now we need to talk about something that honestly made me angry when I learned about it. Because this wasn't just random people recruiting kids. This was the actual industry. The people who were supposed to protect young talent. The documentary explains how Diddy would use award shows and industry connections to get access to young people. And here's how it worked. He would go straight to the managers. Think about that for a second. Your manager is supposed to protect you. They're supposed to have your best interests at heart. But according to the documentary, Diddy would approach these managers and basically bribe them. We're talking millions of dollars. And in exchange, the managers would deliver their clients to these parties. Young girls and boys who trusted their managers completely. The documentary showed this really uncomfortable footage. It's Ashton Kutcher, Diddy, and this young actress named DeVay at an after party.
Coming to the after party tonight? Yeah! Coming to the after party tonight?
Now, I'm not saying anything bad happened in that specific situation, but the way they're all laughing, it's uncomfortable. And that's footage that happened in plain sight at a public event. Imagine what happened behind closed doors. Here's what really gets me about this tactic. It's the power dynamic. If you're a young artist, your manager controls your career. They get you auditions. They negotiate your contracts. They're the bridge between you and success. So if your manager tells you to go to this party and you say no, well, that manager might decide you're difficult to work with. They might stop putting effort into your career. And remember, this is before the internet made it easy to do things yourself. Back then, if you didn't have industry support, you had nothing. The documentary made it clear that young artists trusted their managers to protect them. But instead, some of these managers were selling them out for money. And the worst part, there was no police investigation, no federal oversight. The industry just protected itself. All right, so everything I've told you so far is pretty damning. But now we're going to hear from someone who is actually there, someone who worked for Diddy and saw things firsthand. The documentary interviewed one of Diddy's former bodyguards. And let me tell you, what he said is wild.
Let me ask you a question. If you can recall, what was the worst thing or the most off-color thing that you saw happen at any one of these events?
Okay. So, now when it comes to his events, the most off-color thing I saw was 1 second he's in a suit, next second he's in a towel, and he's holding hands with two Eastern European gentlemen. And
when you say he, that's Diddy. You mean Diddy? Okay.
Yeah, and he's holding hands with these little vampire-looking guys like the movie Twilight. And, I knew I said, all right, now I know what this is. I see what's going on here,
The interviewer asked him, what was the worst thing or the most off-color thing you saw at these events? And this guy laughed. Like, he knew he was about to say something crazy. He said, 1 second, Diddy's in a suit, professional, looking like a businessman. And the next second, he's in a towel. Already weird, right? But wait, it gets weirder. He said Diddy was holding hands with two Eastern European men, and he described them as looking like vampires from Twilight, just pale and creepy. And the bodyguard said he immediately knew what was going on. He said, all right, I know what this is. It's time for us to exit. Now, this is Diddy's own security saying this. The person who was hired to protect him, and even he felt like he needed to get out of there. But here's what struck me about his testimony. He said there were times when he was with other clients, other famous people, and they would stay at these parties. Even when he knew things were about to get really inappropriate, some people chose to stay. He even called out Bobby Valentino by name. Said Bobby told him one day that he preferred trans women because they have stronger hands and stronger jaws. Like, this is the level of stuff that was just casually happening at these events. The bodyguard made another really important point. He said he grew up looking up to gangsters, real street guys. And those guys would always tell him, be careful with that entertainment stuff. That's for sissies. And now he understood what they meant. But here's the thing that really matters. Even people who saw this stuff firsthand didn't speak up. The culture of silence was that strong. If you talked about what happened at Diddy's parties, your career was over. You'd get blacklisted. Nobody would work with you. And that's exactly what happened to people who tried to speak up over the years. The industry made sure they disappeared. Okay, deep breath. This next part is really hard to talk about, but it's important that you understand just how evil this system was. The documentary revealed some messages that Diddy sent, and I'm not going to read them word for word because they're really graphic and disturbing.
There are emails with pictures of his. Here's one email. I don't want to just you, I want to turn you out. I can see you being with some mother that you tell what to do. I make my woman do what I tell her to do, and she loves it. I just want and like to do things different. I'm gonna finish watching this and finish master. Think of you, happy face. If you change your mind and get ready to do what I say, hit me, happy face. God bless Diddy. God is the greatest.
But basically, there were emails with explicit pictures, and the messages were all about control and domination, telling people what to do, saying things like, I make my woman do what I tell her to do, and she loves it. This is where the drugs come in. According to multiple people in the documentary, Diddy would get people addicted, and once you're addicted, you're dependent. You need him. You can't leave. But it gets even more sinister. Once someone was compromised, once Diddy had control over them, he'd make them bring their friends. It was like a pyramid scheme of abuse. Think about how smart that is from a predator's point of view. If you bring your friends into this mess, now you can't speak up without admitting you helped get your friends hurt. Everyone has dirt on everyone else. Nobody can talk without making themselves look bad too. The documentary spent a lot of time on Cassie's story. And if you don't know who Cassie is, she was Diddy's girlfriend for over 10 years. But here's the thing, she met him when she was only 18 years years old, 18, barely an adult, and Diddy was her boss. He was the head of her record label. He controlled her career, her money, her entire life. For over 10 years, she was trapped. So now let's talk about how this all worked for people who weren't famous yet, people who were just trying to break into the industry. The tactic was simple but effective. Diddy would promise struggling artists fame and success. Work with me and I'll make you a star. And when you're desperate, when you've been trying for years to get your shot, that promise sounds like everything you've ever wanted. But here's what the documentary revealed. Once these people were compromised, once something happened that they were ashamed of, the recordings would start. And those recordings, they became leverage. The documentary interviewed a producer named Rodney Jones. People call him Lil Rod. And his story is the perfect example of how this worked. Lil Rod said he worked with Diddy for a year. He even lived in Diddy's house during that time. And during that year, he claims Diddy drugged him on multiple occasions. He would wake up and not remember what happened the night before. The documentary even played voice messages where Diddy was talking to Lil Rod about payment. Lil Rod kept asking for the money he was owed, and Diddy kept dismissing him, acting like Lil Rod was making a big deal out of nothing. And here's the crazy part. After a whole year of work, after living with this man and doing everything he asked, Lil Rod still didn't get paid. He was in the same place he started. Actually, worse, because now he had trauma and memories he couldn't escape. In the documentary, Lil Rod called Diddy a gatekeeper. And man, that word hit me hard, because that's exactly what he was. Diddy stood at the gate to success, and if you wanted through, you had to pay a price. A price that had nothing to do with talent or hard work. This same pattern happened over and over. Get them dependent on you for their career. Compromise them in situations that can be recorded. Hold their dreams hostage. And then, when you're done with them, throw them away like trash. Alright, so now we get to the most recent stuff. The footage that nobody has seen until this Netflix documentary came out. Remember how I said at the beginning that they filmed Diddy 6 days before his arrest? Well, that footage is in the documentary, and it's absolutely wild to watch. You can see Diddy on the phone with his legal team, and he's angry. He's saying, "Y'all are not working together the right way. We're losing." Then he says something that really shows how his mind works. He tells them, "We have to find somebody that'll work with us, whether they're from this country or another country. Somebody that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business of media and propaganda. The dirtiest of dirty business." Those are his words. He's not even trying to claim he's innocent at this point. He's just trying to control the story. And that's exactly what he did during his trial. The documentary revealed that Diddy had an entire PR team working outside the courthouse. They weren't there by accident. They were targeting bloggers and content creators, getting them to push Diddy's narrative. Here's something that really matters. The jury in Diddy's trial, they weren't sequestered. That means they could go home at night. They could watch TV, they could see social media. And all that PR work Diddy's team was doing, it could reach them. But the most telling footage in the whole documentary, it's when they show Diddy greeting fans in Harlem. You see him walking through the streets. People are coming up to him. He's hugging them, taking pictures, acting like he loves his fans. But then he gets back in his car, and the second he's alone, his whole attitude changes. He says, "I need hand sanitizer. Hold on, I've been out in the streets amongst the people. I need to take a bath." He talks about the amount of people he came in contact with. Says he had to endure like 150 hugs, like it was torture. That footage tells you everything you need to know about how Diddy really feels. He sees regular people as dirty, as beneath him. Those fans who love him, who bought his music and made him rich, he can't wait to wash them off his skin. The documentary made it clear that everything Diddy does is an act. The friendly celebrity persona, the caring mentor, the hip-hop mogul who came from nothing, it's all manipulation. It's all about control. So there you have it. 7 different tactics that Diddy and his circle used to get young people to these parties. From the starstruck temptation to the public manipulation, every single step was calculated. This Netflix documentary exposes a system that went on for decades. A system where young people were manipulated through fame, money, and power. And the worst part, the entertainment industry enabled it. They protected it. They let it happen because it was profitable. But here's what gives me hope. People are finally being heard. Cassie spoke up. Lil Rod spoke up. That model spoke up. The Bodyguard spoke up. And now, millions of people know the truth. I want to know what you think about all this. What shocked you the most? Have you ever worked in the entertainment industry? Do you think this kind of thing is still happening today? Leave your thoughts in the comments, especially if you have experience with this world. Your perspective matters. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.